Good evening, everyone. My name is Dr. Aditya Siddhi Chakravarti. I am a final year medicine postgraduate from Raja Madhya Medical College, Chidambaram. Today, we will be dealing about the dengue virus. As you all know, dengue virus is one of the most prevalent viral infection in the Indian subcontinent. We will be dealing with the dengue virus in different categories. This is the categories with which we are going to be dealing with dengue virus. First, we will start with the definitions. So this is what is most important about the dengue virus. So what is a dengue fever? This is a WHO definition and is also adopted by the National Vector-Borne Disease Control Program. A dengue fever is someone, a suspect patient, who is having a fever for a period of 2 to 7 days with muscle pain, joint pain and with severe headache and the retroocular pain. Fever, myalgia, arthralgia, headache and retroocular pain. This is the suspect. It can have any hemorrhagic manifestations, the mucocutaneous bleeds. So that is what is called as the dengue fever. So what is the second case? A dengue hemorrhagic fever. Dengue hemorrhagic fever is defined as the same patient, a fever, myalgia, arthralgia, with headache, retroorbital pain, with bleeding manifestations. The bleeding manifestations can be a positive tourniquet test or a person with skin bleeding like petechiae, purpurae, ecchymosis, or the patient can have GI bleeding in the form of emetemesis or melena. This is the dengue hemorrhagic fever. He should have lab evidence of a thrombocytopenia, a platelet count of less than 1 lakh, and also you should have evidence of evidence of endothelial dysfunction. That should be in the form of a raise in hematocrit more than 20%, or a fall in hematocrit more than 20% with a normal IV fluid corrections. This has to be positive for a dengue hemorrhagic fever. So who is the patient with the dengue shock syndrome? The same patient, if he has tachycardia, a drop in blood pressure, a decrease in the pulse pressure with a rapid depulse, he is coming with altered mental status. He is a suspect for dengue shock syndrome. So what is a suspect case? A suspect case is any patient with the above manifestation. He should be indexed as a suspect case. A probable case is a suspect case with a lab evidence of leukopenia or a thrombocytopenia or a positive IgM or IgG. A lab confirmed case is a patient who is NS1 positive, IgG, IgM positive with a typical above features. That is the lab confirmed case. So we will first deal about the virus. What is this dengue virus? Dengue virus is basically a single strand RNA virus. It has got a single stranded RNA genome. It is surrounded by a nucleocapsid layer, and there is also the membrane layer with multiple envelope proteins. This is the basic outbreak of dengue virus, basic structure. This dengue virus, there are 4 basic serotypes. Then 1, D, and V, 1, 2, 3, and 4. All these 4 serotypes are genetically different because when once if we get infected with a single serotype of dengue virus, we will develop antibodies to that particular dengue virus. Once the antibodies are developed, it produces lifelong immunity. Now, we will deal with the prevalence. Where is this virus prevalent in India? In the Indian subcontinent, it is prevalent mostly in the northeast places like Assam, Bihar, the Odisha, the Jharkhand. In these areas, the hilly areas where the mosquito prevalence is very high, they have got high prevalence of dengue fever. Basically, it is virus that this transmission is highest at the end of the October-November season, at the end of the monsoon period, because the rainfall favors the spread of this viral infection. Also, this virus can affect predominantly the urban population, where the tires or the overhead tanks, the the sewage, they can act as a good harbor for this viral replications. Now, for this mosquitoes breeding, the pathogenesis. So, what happens in dengue shock syndrome? Basically, the most important thing that occurs in dengue fever is the endothelial dysfunction. Endothelial dysfunction occurs in the case of there is increase in vascular permeability and there is vascular leak. This is what is dengue fever. It is vascular dysfunction as well as the vascular leak. That is what is the most important pathogenesis of dengue fever. How do you get thrombocytopenia? The two proposed mechanisms for thrombocytopenia is that there is a transient bone marrow separation because of the interferon alpha on the other cytokines produced. Secondly, there is increased peripheral destruction of the platelets in the late period of the febrile phase. What happens to the liver? And the liver is one of the important organs to be involved in dengue fever. What happens in liver is that there is two things. One is there is a direct, the virus goes and directly destroys the liver cells that can manifest as raised AST and ALT. Also, this will cause increase in the capillary permeability. That will cause the other thing that happens in the liver is that there is endothelial dysfunction and there is accumulation of fluid in the liver that is causing hepatic enlargement. These are the two liver manifestations. The non-sexual proteins, the NS proteins, they can cause inhibition to the clotting factors. They decrease the anti-clotting factors and increase the procoagulant factors. That way they can cause a state of increased procoagulation. So how do they present dengue fever? So as I said earlier, there should be from the mosquito bite, the Anopheles Aedes aegypti mosquito bite, they can develop within a period of 2 to 7 days. They first develop fever, that is high-grade fever with headache, severe headache and retroorbital pain. Along with it, the patient can develop abdominal pain, nausea, vomiting, myalgia, arthralgia and the bleeding manifestations. The lab features in this presentation will be there will be decrease in the WBC called leukopenia with an increase in the decrease in the platelets thrombocytopenia and increase in the liver enzymes AST and ALT. So from this dengue fever, you can go for dengue shock syndrome. The febrile phase is similar to the dengue fever phase. The critical phase is where the most of the major catastrophic events of dengue fever occurs in this phase. Once the fever settles down after 3 to 5 days, that is the time when the endothelium goes for dysfunction. In the endothelial dysfunction, there is leakage of blood plasma. Plasma leaks from the intravascular compartment to the extravascular compartment. So what happens is that just because of the leakage of plasma, there is accumulation of fluid in the extravascular space. Namely, they can develop pleural effusions, they can develop ascites, and also in intravascularly they can go for hemoconcentration and loss of proteins. So hypoproteinemia, hemoconcentration, pleural effusion and ascites. These are the things that can happen in critical phase. First, it will be patients can be asymptomatic. Then they will go for a stage of a compensated shock. Then suddenly they can go into uncompensated shock and death. That is the danger with this critical phase. The recovery phase is what occurs after the fever settles down. The patient's the platelet count returns to the normal, the temperature returns to the normal, the clinical well-being is improved, and patients can have some long-term effects like neurological sequelae, myocarditis, conduction disturbance. This can be seen in the recovery stage. So what is a severe dengue syndrome? Severe dengue syndrome basically means 3 things: a dengue hemorrhagic fever, a dengue shock syndrome, or a dengue with multi-organ involvement. These 3 are called severe dengue. So what is an extended dengue? Extended dengue means the dengue fever having atypical manifestations in various organs. In the kidneys, it can cause acute kidney injury or a hemolytic uremic syndrome. In the liver, it can cause a transient elevation of AST, ALT, a transient viral hepatitis, or it can cause acalculous cholecystitis, acute pancreatitis, or it can even cause severe abdominal pain. These are the things you can see in liver. In the heart, you can have some conduction disturbance, bradycardias, or the tachyarrhythmias, anything can be seen. In the CNS, they can present with mainly can be aseptic meningitis, aseptic encephalitis, and you can have peripheral neuropathies, even Guillain-Barré syndromes has been reported. So this is what is from the extended dengue spectrum. So how you investigate a dengue fever patient? Basically, there are 4 basic investigations. You have to either detect the antigen, or you have to either detect the antibodies, namely the IgG, IgM and NS1, or you can go for viral culture, or you can identify the viral genome by RT-PCR. These are the 4 basic methods, and the most widely preferred one is the antibody detection, namely NS1, IgG and IgM. NS1. NS1 is the first condition to become positive. It is positive on day 1 of fever and it can be present up to 5-6 days after fever. Hence, it is very useful in detecting acute dengue infections. IgM can become positive the 5th day of fever. From 5th day, it can be present up to 2 months basically. IgM is also more towards an acute phase of infection. It can be positive in other arboviral infections also. IgG is highly non-specific because it can be present in other arboviral infections also. It can be present over a period of 2 to 3 months and it provides lifelong immunity, IgG antibodies, and it is used to detect acute from chronic infections. The other investigations you can do are a chest X-ray, can show a pleural effusion, the costophrenic angle can be blunted, you can do an ultrasound abdomen, you can show features of gallbladder wall edema or ascites. You can give daily CBC. CBC shows leukopenia, thrombocytopenia less than 1 lakh, or raising hematocrit more than 20%. These are the features you can usually see in investigations. So management. So how do you manage a dengue fever? That is based on how you stage the dengue fever. Either it is just a simple dengue fever, or where the patient presents with fever and the other myalgia, arthralgia, headache, and occipital, retroorbital pain, these features, or it is a dengue hemorrhagic fever or a dengue shock syndrome. You have to classify that and manage based on that. So, which are the patients who are suited for home treatment? Suppose the patient has got the pulse rate is normal, the pulse pressure is normal, now the patient's platelet count is more than 1 lakh. That patients can be treated at home, but not necessarily you have to send him for home. In India, certainly for the rural population, their reachability towards the hospitals are very far away. So they basically have to be admitted. That's very safe. So that's admissions. So which are the patients who seek definite admissions? Any patient with an acute abdomen, any patient with venous bleeding manifestation, hepatic ecchymosis, or because of bleeding, the gum bleeding, epistaxis, hematemesis, melena. These patients should definitely be admitted and should be cared. So how do you care a dengue fever patient? First thing is bed rest. Patient should be admitted in hospital and should be given adequate bed rest. And he should be advised to drink plenty of oral fluids. This is the second thing you have to do. And the fever should be managed with the help of paracetamol tablets or tepid sponge can be tried. Most important is you have to watch for the warning symptoms. That is the most important thing you have to do. You should avoid intramuscular injections in these patients. And you should daily monitor the hematocrit as well as the platelet count. So what are the warning signs I am talking about? The warning signs for dengue shock. What are the warning signs? A patient with severe abdominal pain, or the patient develops severe vomiting, or if the patient develops an altered sensorium, or the patient develops any mucosal bleedings, petechiae, ecchymosis, the other gum bleeds, then they should be evaluated very aggressively. So dengue hemorrhagic fever, how do you manage dengue hemorrhagic fever? The dictum of treatment is mainly IV fluids. IV fluids, preferably normal saline should be given. The normal saline should be started at a dose of, if the patient is having severe hemorrhagic manifestations or mucositis manifestation, start the mucous beads, start the fluid infusion at say 8 ml per kg per hour. That should be given for 1 hour. Then again next 2 to 3 hours you have to give it at 6 ml per kg per hour. Then after 4 hours you have to give it a dose of 2 ml per kg per hour for 24 hours. This is how you have to manage the fluids. While managing the fluids, you should closely monitor the urine output. You should monitor the vitals, blood pressure, the pulse rate, the features of polymorphosis, the basal cramps or the pulmonary edema features. They should be closely monitored. The target urine output should be more than 0.5 ml per kg per hour. If that is achieved, then it means the patients adequately have replaced the fluids. The goal of replacement of fluid is to ensure the perfusion to various organs. That is the goal of your treatment. In dengue shock, if the patient goes for shock, say followed by systolic blood pressure, narrow pulse pressure, or if the patient goes for rapid and ready pulse, in that condition you can think of blood transfusion. The transfusions can be done as a prophylactic treatment in patients with hypotension in a dengue fever. So how we manage the bleeding manifestations? Bleeding manifestations should be managed by fresh blood transfusion, preferably a whole blood or a packed cell. The fresh blood is important because the platelets will be viable in their will be viable only for a short period of time, maybe a day or 1 or day or 2. So you have to transfuse adequately. So how do you manage thrombocytopenia? Thrombocytopenia is usually managed if there is if above 50,000, you have to manage only with IV fluids. If the patient is having a platelet count of less than 10,000, or if the patient is having a platelet count of less than 20,000 with signs of bleeding manifestation, that is the indication for transfusions. So what are the other precautions you can take? You should avoid IM injections. You should do routine monitoring of hematocrit, routine monitoring of platelet counter. You can only discharge, especially once the fever settles down. That is the period where you have to closely monitor the patient, because that is the time the patient can go for all these complications. Okay, how do you what are the environmental preventive measures? This is the most important step of preventing this dengue, because management of dengue is basically symptomatic management. You treat the fever, you replenish the fluids, or you go for bed transfusion. But this thing, it can do a huge efforts to reduce the disease burden. You can say personal protective measures like wearing long sleeve dresses, using insecticide bed nets, or you can go for the mosquito nets, the mosquito coils, repellents, they can be used. The other things are the genetically modified male mosquitoes, which are being developed, released into the general population to prevent the further generations to become less prevalent. You can develop the Gambusia fish that has been the larvalous fishes, they can be dried up, and they have also developed the bacteria against the Anopheles mosquitoes, which will make it resistant to the dengue virus. So this sums up dengue virus discussion.